Hello, wrestling fans, and welcome to NBC's 10 Count. I'm Steve Fall. On today's episode, though, I have Matt Taven with me, a former Ring of Honor World Champion. How you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. I was just telling you how fantastic your background is, so I'm already in a good mood. It's like a little piece of my childhood I'm staring at right now. So, you can't beat that. A little nostalgia to start any sort of Zoom call is always a good time.
Of course, and I see you have some titles behind you as well, some championship belts.
Yeah, this is a couple. I try not to get too crazy, but in the office, I have a couple of things. This is the Purple Rain when I was declared declared myself, I should say, just declared in general, the real world champion. The second Ring of Honor title, tag team title that we held, and then also this thing's probably the coolest part. It's when you are the headliner at a sold out Madison Square Garden show, they give you a Tiffany's ticket to Madison Square Garden. So that one's pretty special. I throw out the first pitch at Fenway Park. So I got a couple of good little gems behind me.
That's amazing. All the titles are great, but throwing the pitch at a Fenway game.
Trust me. It's still something that as soon as I find a Red Sox fan, I'm like, oh, look at this little video on my phone here. And recently, actually, a fan got me a seat from Fenway. So I can't turn the camera around, but I have a Fenway Park seat in my office as well. Well, very narrow. I can barely fit in and out of it. A million layers of paint on it, but I'm still staring at it, blown away that it's here. Very, very thoughtful gift that I've been given.
Wow. I wonder if it was one of the chairs stuck behind the giant pole. It's this is a good seat.
Yeah,
that's this the whole time.
I mean, I feel like everyone has that learning experience with Fenway when you buy your own tickets for the first time. You're like, look at these cheap tickets I got. Holy moly. And then you're like, I guess I'm not seeing the game. I'll look at one of the TVs.
At least they put TVs. When I was a kid, I'd go there and me and my family would get in those seats. I'd be like, I'm a little boy. I'm like, I can't see anything. I can't. Yeah. Now someone was like, we should hang some flat screens versus a giant box TV, back in the day that would crush you if it fell off.
Yeah. Back in the day, if you were sitting there, you were basically watching or listening to the game, I should say, on radio, but just through crowd noise alone, you're like, oh, big play. I go lean out of my seat for this play.
I better watch out for that foul ball. It's going to crack me in the head probably because I can't see it coming, which I still can't see coming when I sit in those seats anyways, because I'm a local boy myself. So it's always fun to go. And it's awesome you have a chair there. Well, let's talk about wrestling. Crazy. All right. Yes, and I think people want to hear you about wrestling. How did you get into wrestling? Because obviously everyone has their own stories. Was it a friend, a family member? Were you channel surfing?
You're kind of, wow, you almost, if you combined all those things that you just said, you basically have it. So I can remember it pretty vividly. And we talked about our favorite years of wrestling. So this is probably 90, 91. I'm a very small kid, child, you might say. And I remember my great uncle, who happened to be a wrestling fan, and it took me a while to realize that you can call him your great uncle. I mean, not just your dad's uncle, it's your great uncle. It's okay to say. As a wrestling fan, he's asking me to change the little dials, like the little knob dials before that they had on TV. And I can remember like it was yesterday. It was the opening of Superstars, and the Warrior had the belt, and the lightning bolt hit behind him, and it was like,
eyes.
Yeah. And it was all like the color, and like I'm a kid growing up watching cartoons, and all of a sudden the cartoons that I'm watching are kind of real life, if that makes any sense. So like, and it was the same time in the morning, you know what I mean? And I was hooked instantly. My parents were never big wrestling fans, so as a child, it was kind of hard to explain to them why I loved it so unbelievably much and needed every wrestling thing I could possibly get my hands on. But my great uncle, he was a huge wrestling fan, and he came to stay with us, and that's all it took for me to be hooked for life. So been a wrestling fan ever since.
Laser Beam Ultimate Warrior got you hooked. That's a good opening. I like to go on YouTube sometimes and just type in like Superstars openings and just go through years and just watch what changed and who's there and who wasn't there. So.
I literally was watching 93 Superstars this morning, watching Mr. Perfect and Doink the Clown in a few that I completely forgot about.
Wow. And I think they have an outstanding match on Raw, King of the Ring qualifier for the 1993
That's exactly the time period, yes, that I was watching, and that was being recapped on Superstars as they were going through the whole feud there. So
dude, that's amazing. I love that stuff. But so we'll flash forward because in 2008 you have your first, introduction to wrestling. In 2009 though, you sign with Ring of Honor, and you're with Ring of Honor up until the announcement that it was going to close and then reopen. So that whole time you were there, what was that like? Because Ring of Honor for a lot of people for a lot of years was the alternative to the WWE. How was that for you?
It was crazy because I really, the first time that I got a shot with Ring of Honor, I was not prepared. There's no way I should have got that shot. I was totally lucky. I was only a year in the business, and I had remembered the year before being in that Case gym in BU and watching the title change with Steven Generico and the Age of the Fall, and remember hearing that crowd and being like, man, I'd be lucky to wrestle here one day. I just started wrestling, and only a couple of months later, I'd be in that same building wrestling for Ring of Honor, and it was kind of like, ooh, this is all happening pretty fast, but it's a good thing. And I didn't officially sign a contract with Ring of Honor till the end of 2012, but I was working underneath that whole time, just kind of looking to get that shot where things just all clicked and I would be a mainstay. And you're looking across the locker room at all these guys who are not just guys that would end up, the Seth Rollins of the world and the Kevin Owens of the world and Sami Zayn's, not just guys that would be eventual main eventers, but guys that had already traveled the world and had been all over the place. And a fan like me, who loves wrestling magazines and keeping up with all the international stuff as I could, I remember being so intimidated, like, holy moly, there's so many guys in here that are so good. Where do I fit in? And just like probably those guys felt it was just like a matter of time. You had to stick around and take your lumps, and Ring of Honor had been this place where a lot of those top guys were getting nabbed and going to the WWE, and then you kind of would move along the chain. And then there was a time period around 2014 really where everything changed drastically, and our relationship with New Japan really kind of took things off. We went from pay-per-views to legit pay-per-views, and I remember being on the first one and wrestling Jay Lethal on it and kind of being like, oh, here we go, we're taking off, and things just really snowballed very quickly after that. And Ring of Honor kind of became a destination to stay for a long time. And it was a place where I really kind of set my roots and stuck my flag in the ground and was very proud to call myself a Ring of Honor guy. And it's one of those things that it's still not far enough in the rearview mirror to kind of wrap up my feelings on everything, looking back on it. But man, what a wild ride it is. And for me personally, my last match being in a Ring of Honor ring. So, as of now, being against the Briscoes in Final Battle, I can remember right before we went out there thinking of all the, like you said, 2009 is the first time I stepped into a Ring of Honor ring, and thinking of all these years that have gone by and everything that I've seen in Ring of Honor and everything that I've been through. I literally starting as one of the underneath guys that is just begging to get a shot, moving all the way to being the world champion. And now I'm going out there in what could be my last match against the greatest tag team in Ring of Honor history. And, I always, people constantly want to know, like, oh, what's your favorite Ring of Honor match? And I kind of look back on it and maybe it's because it's the last one as of now, but I really look back and I think I left it all out there for the very last time, knowing that it could be the end. And I'm so extremely proud of that match that's almost one that I hang my hat on as almost like here's a synopsis of my whole career here in Ring of Honor. And it's summed up in this one match with us and the Briscoes at Final Battle.
Yeah, it's crazy what happened with Ring of Honor and all the situations. So October 27th, 2021, Ring of Honor announced that it's going to go on a hiatus after Final Battle in December. They'll return in April of 2022, where there are plans to reimagine Ring of Honor. But at the same time, there's an announcement that all these contracts, including I'm assuming yours, would go up. You could be a free agent and you could go and do whatever you wanted to do. Now, were you aware while you were in Ring of Honor that they were going to shut the door and then try to reopen again in a reimagined way?
No. I mean, none of us really knew exactly what was going on. And even after that announcement, no one really knew what was going on. There was definitely guys like myself and Jay Lethal who were, we're filming in front of no one. I can see how much every time we do these TV tapings, the amount of testing, the single rooms, the amount of people coming in, all the flights, I'm looking around and I'm adding everything up, and I'm thinking to myself, this isn't good. You know what I mean? This is not the ideal business situation to be not bringing in, two of your biggest merchandise and the live audience are two of your biggest revenue streams. And also, not for nothing, but the Honor Club, which was a big revenue stream for us, where it's a little bit difficult when 5 months you're not putting out any new content on there. So it's not like you're growing that. And, there was definitely times where I was looking around and wanting to talk to the brass and be like, hey, is things going well? Are things okay? And we were reassured a lot of a lot of different things. And maybe, I have no idea because I'm only on one side of it. So I don't know what was going on the other side. But we really found out shortly before the internet found out. I mean, we had a meeting, a Zoom meeting just like this. And we were told the news, and before you really had a chance to process it, your phone's already going off because it seemed like everyone else already knew as well. So it was all very, very quick. I personally, I had 2 years left on my contract. So I wasn't one of the ones that they were going to let all the contracts that were expired just expire and not renew them. And the ones that continue to go on had a new end date per se in March or the end of March. So I was one of those guys, but thankfully, Ring of Honor allowed me to do Impact Wrestling during that time period after Final Battle and before my contract would actually expire. They allowed me to work with Impact Wrestling, and that's another one of those things that just kind of like by chance, I looked around the other day. I was like, oh my God, I've been at Impact for 6 months. It just kind of happened out of nowhere. And here we are. So thankfully, they allowed me to do that while I was still under a contract. And when things were done with my contract, I had already had something with Impact. So it definitely, even still to right now, it's kind of, you look back on it and it makes your head spin thinking of how everything turned and changed so quickly. But we really didn't have too much of a heads up in comparison to the general public.
Right. So you're saying that your contract, you were allowed to, while under contract with Ring of Honor, allowed to go compete in Impact Wrestling, but eventually you were released of your Ring of Honor contract, correct?
Yeah. Eventually every single Ring of Honor contract, no matter what the expiration date was, ended on March 31st of this year.
Okay. Because there's a lot of, conflicting reports out there about like what happened with who, what happened with that, when.
I mean, and like, it's really not anyone's business, but it always different for different people just because of when people sign contracts and how long people had left on their deals. So, I mean, of course you're going to get different information being out there just because it literally was kind of a person by person case in most circumstances. So, but no matter what, once that April 1st date came around, everyone was out of their ROH deals.
So then at Hard to Kill on January 8th, 2022, you made your Impact Wrestling debut alongside other members of the Ring of Honor organization. You had PCO, you had Maria, Mike Bennett, Vincent, and you came out, and now you're called a whole different group. It kind of reminds me of like an invasion of, it seemed, at least to me, it seemed like, oh, no honor no more. We're going to come in, we're going to take out Impact wrestlers, so it seemed, was this the plan of, hey, if Ring of Honor kind of stays afloat, we'll have a Ring of Honor invasion into Impact?
I don't think there was necessarily a plan like that. I think there was just, a group of guys that when Ring of Honor goes and there's so much talent being put out there on the open market. I think there was guys that everyone had in mind that they wanted here or there. And just to introduce us all, since we all had a familiar background, a familiar story, I think it was, these are, it's not like we're hiding anything from the public because they know where we came from. So it's not like, oh, you come up with a new name and now they're the dominators, they're going to go out there and beat everyone. It's like, no, these are all the guys from Ring of Honor that are going to come over to Impact Wrestling now. And, we had to fight for our spot to get in there. But once we're in the door, it was more of these are guys with a common goal and a common background more than like an invasion coming in. What we kind of figured that would be the assumption anyways, since it is a bunch of Ring of Honor guys calling ourselves Honor No More. It does have those implications, but when it comes down to it, no one really knew. A lot of times people find out on live air, just like just like everyone else does. So there's a lot of things that probably were assumed but not known, and I think there's just this general plan of, all right, these guys all come from a common space, more than like, oh, this is going to lead to XYZ, because no one knew what was coming down the pike. No one knew what Ring of Honor was going to be in April once if it stayed with Sinclair, and no one knew that if it was bought, who was going to end up buying it.
Right. One of the criticism, though, I kept seeing for years about Ring of Honor was Sinclair has stations everywhere. But I think you're already smiling about it. But yet it felt like there wasn't money being put into the promotional part of Ring of Honor, because I knew Ring of Honor existed because I'm a wrestling fan.
Yeah.
Okay. But if someone is like, for instance, AEW, before it even opened, you saw commercials everywhere. Even NXT tried to put out commercials to confuse the audience of, oh, wait, this is actually WWE. Don't pay attention to that. But was there a frustration amongst you, especially, the main talent, that why isn't there more promotion behind this brand that people want to tune into?
Of course. Of course. I mean, it's, when we've had meetings about it before, because like you said, Sinclair is a huge broadcasting company. Yeah. I mean, not only do they have stations all across the country, but I mean, billboards that you don't even realize are owned by Sinclair, radio stations that are owned by Sinclair. Like they're a mega player in all of entertainment. So it definitely, was one of those things where we didn't want to just be syndication, so you don't have to play reruns of Seinfeld, so you can just throw and say, oh, you don't have a show for that slot in Albuquerque, you throw Ring of Honor there and they'll fill it. Oh, we already have Ring of Honor 3 times on the stage. That's all right, put them back on there one more time. And it's like, if there was a little bit more focus on and we can always play Monday morning quarterback. There was plenty of things that Sinclair did, especially during the pandemic, taking care of us, that you can never, you can really never say thank you enough for. But of course, we can look back and say there was an unbelievable roster at Ring of Honor, some of the most talented guys in all of wrestling. And if more people had the opportunity or knew where to find this, could it have been a bigger thing? Sure. One of the other big things was, and I'm a wrestling fan who grew up in the Northeast, who used to, stay until 1 o'clock or midnight and tape the Spanish channel when ECW would come on in the middle of the night. So like, I get, all right, Ring of Honor's on at 1 a.m, but if you really are trying to compete with everyone else who has weekly television, how can you not say, like, if you meet a random person, oh, I'm on this TV show, find us Thursday nights, 8 o'clock, this channel, you would meet someone and you'd be like, oh, I work for Ring of Honor. Oh, where can I watch that? Where do you live? It's
let me get my scroll out. You're in this district, so
let me type in your zip code real quick. I can find you. And there were certain spots where we're lucky. I mean, being on Nesson was great for us. And always the Northeast was such a good market for us. And there were certain spots down in Florida. I mean, they had some great spots down here as well. So it's just, it was very all over the place. Would we have liked more focus from Sinclair to say like, hey, you put all this money into it. If you put some money into advertising and maybe find us a TV deal where we can be something consistent, this could work. Sure. At the same time, I think that probably was always in the back of their mind, and maybe they just never got to that eventually. I can only look from the outside,
of course,
looking in.
Of course. And I've talked to other Impact Wrestling wrestlers, and kind of their same thought process is, well, we need to be on a different set of cable systems because certain channels don't carry, Anthem's products.
Of course.
And that obviously hurts when if there's 100 channels and you're only on 20 of them.
Yeah. Well, you're not even giving people the opportunity to find you. And, right. and that was something else that we can work with these days with the internet and the streaming services and stuff like that. And there definitely was a big push to kind of focus more on the Honor Club in Ring of Honor and focus towards the streaming service. I don't think maybe necessarily the funds and the resources were put enough behind that, because that to me, is the few, everyone's got Netflix and Hulu and whatever. The streaming service to me is kind of a no-brainer, especially when you're having a tough time finding a consistent television slot with a consistent channel. You might as well do it yourself type deal. And that's the world we live in. I think that was a mindset, but once that pandemic hit, it really kind of set things back, because everyone's working from home or doing whatever they can from home. But B, when you stop putting even though Ring of Honor had such a great library, you can look at the analytics alone, and you can see once the new events and the new episodes weren't being put onto the Honor Club, there was a plateau and then a decrease of subscriptions.
Right. And obviously it's the same thing with today with anything. It's like, oh, I love old wrestling, but would I rather watch the 1998 No Way Out pay-per-view, or watch new things
stuff where you don't know the end to?
Yes, I can. I'll be like, oh, 1998 No Way Out. That's when that's when that happened. I remember.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, it was just interesting to talk to you about that. But so on January 10th, 2022, Ring of Honor announced Supercard of Honor is coming, and it's going to take place on April 1st. This is 2 days though after your Impact debut. So yes. Like, was there information being fed to you about like, hey man, just stick it out in Impact. Don't worry, we got this going, because April 1st, we're going to have this event.
Yes and no. I mean, and I feel bad, because you do hear, there was definitely talks about doing Supercard, and there was different matches floated around to me. And at the same time, I'm doing my thing with Impact, but you kind of almost take everything with a grain of salt, because there was always a feeling of everything was up in the air, to be completely honest. In those 3 months, it was very chaotic for everyone. Everyone's trying to scramble to figure out what the future holds in general for their lives. And so on top of all that, you're getting info that's constantly changing, and you're kind of just, once you're around wrestling enough, you get to know like, oh, I kind of don't believe anything until I see it, until I get like the plane ticket or the graphics on the internet. I kind of just going to say, yeah, okay, I like that. That's okay. We'll see, what happens. So there definitely was talk about me doing Supercard. And that was always one of the things when I first went to Impact was, hey, we'll allow you to do Impact, and we'll get back with you coming into Supercard. And then, the sale happens and everything goes out the window. And then also Impact wants to, at that point, make sure that, are you going to stick around here, whatever the case may be. So it was a Wild West feeling during from basically October to about April. It was very much, you would hear a couple things, then that would be out the window. Then you would hear some different stuff, and that would be out the window. So you just kind of got used to letting things go in one ear and kind of out the other a little bit, but remembering that, oh, maybe that is on the table. Right. So I can't, explain it more than every time people ask me about it. I'm like, I almost have to just throw my hands up. It's like, yeah, I guess I was told that and told a million things, and maybe this could happen, maybe, but that's wrestling. It's just kind of the name of the game, is that it changes so quickly. It's every wrestler that you probably have ever met could tell you a million stories of things that they were told that never came to fruition.
Yeah, I've interviewed a lot of wrestlers. Boy, oh boy, they've all shared the same exact. Well, I was told this, and then this happened, or I showed up, and then this happened. I'm like, huh? I interviewed Alberto Del Rio 2 days ago, and I was like, when were you told you're winning Money in the Bank? He was like, about an hour before my match. I was like, oh, okay. Well, like trying to keep the information in the circle of trust, obviously.
Yeah.
But at the same time, to me, it feels like, wait, do you have a plan or you don't have a plan? Like, I'm feeling like, do you, because nobody knows until
that's why they say you write it in
three.
pencil. That's why you're right, wrestling down in pencil, because they have erasers. So if you got to change something last minute, and that's really how it is. I mean, Madison Square Garden, I would say an hour and a half, maybe. I found out an hour and a half before we went out there. So, you have almost like a match planned, and you don't even know the end to it until you're like, okay, so now we can figure out that ending spot sequence. So it's just, that's how wrestling is. It's a very fly by the seat of your pants. And that's why wrestlers seem to be very good at improv and stuff like that, and being able to just kind of do things out of nowhere, because you're almost having in the back of your mind to just be prepared for any possible situation.
Well, on March 2nd, 2022, it's announced on Dynamite that Tony Khan has purchased Ring of Honor. And when you heard this, what is the first thought that went through your brain?
Smart. It's kind of like like a good move. I always, in the back of my mind, and maybe this is, maybe makes more sense of why I never really believed anything that I was being told, is that Ring of Honor had this great asset called the library. And it was something that they had, and every major star had been through Ring of Honor. And there was these endless tapes of all this guy's history. And I don't know about you, but for me personally, there's nothing that I get more hyped up as a wrestling fan than a good package. You know what I mean? A good video package.
Of course. That's usually better than the match sometimes.
Without a doubt. And, I have the pleasure of working with David Zahadi now, the guy who during the Attitude Era made all those beautiful packages that I can remember the pay-per-view starting, and I would be ready to run through a wall just sitting there, waiting for the pay-per-view to go because of those video packages. So that library is a gold mine. So I always thought that someone would end up making an offer for the library. I kind of figured Tony would clearly be in the running for that, especially with all the guys that he has that had Ring of Honor ties as well. I'm sure every wrestling company was probably throwing their name in the ring there, and trying to see where they lied as far as Sinclair's bids and offers were concerned. I even know, independent and private people that were trying to make their own bids. So I always had a feeling in the back of my mind that Ring of Honor would sell. So I wasn't necessarily too surprised. I thought it was a smart move. And like I said, if I'm a wrestling, person, executive, and I know that there's a library that valuable out there, you would have to you would kind of be a fool not to make a move on it.
Right.
So it was just kind of a matter of time before someone was going to make a move on it. And clearly, Tony has his finger on the pulse and jumped at the opportunity.
Yeah, because you brought up a good point, because if you go back when the WWE Network wasn't on Peacock, they were buying up every old territory's library, because it was like, oh, well, even if you want to watch Texas Tornado versus Jerry Lawler, or you want to watch AWA or Mid-South or WCCW, World Class, it was all there. But that's much older style of wrestling, and it's great to see the people who created the pathway for you. But you're talking about Ring of Honor, which started in 2002, so you have stars like AJ Styles, Christopher Daniels, Samoa Joe, and you go through it's the CM Punks, the Adam Coles, Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn. So those are all current wrestlers versus seeing Hacksaw Jim Duggan in his heyday. And I love Hacksaw Jim Duggan. He
doesn't.
But at the same time, if I'm a newer fan and I'm younger, and I know out there I can watch the first crop of AJ Styles matches, or I really like Adam Cole in AEW. Wait, he was somewhere else first? Oh, let me check that out. Like, that's how you create lifetime fans, obviously. I used to go to the VHS store to get, I think you just bring that up. You go to VHS stores and how did I watch the 1990 Survivor Series? It wasn't on pay-per-view because I was too young. So I had to go to a store and I had to rent it and I had to watch it and go, holy shit, that's good. And you go back to that same section and do it all over again with something else.
I've discovered so much wrestling, especially as a teenager and before the days of the internet where you could grab your phone and basically find anything.
Thank you.
You would find these guys and be like, oh, they were where? I got to go find that tape and so on and such. So especially AEW being a newer company, and if they're going to, I assume that this library is going to show up somewhere one day, but if they're going to put their stuff on a streaming service, you only have a year or two, right, of their personal library, but the Ring of Honor's got 20 years. So it was a very, very smart move. And it's something that I wasn't surprised in the least, let's say, when I heard the announcement.
Of course. And if you go back to even like when the WWE purchased WCW, they really wanted the library. Like they didn't care about getting, again, I'm not trying to insult anybody, but like Sean O'Hare, like they don't really care about getting Sean O'Hare as the wrestler. They want the library showing you Sting, the NWO,
of course,
all that good stuff.
Everyone's got wrestling rings, so it's not like, oh, we got all the WCW rings. Now we're really making a move. It's the libraries, the memories that are in people's minds that they want to go and relive time and time again. Now you have ownership to them, and you can profit off those until you sell it to someone else. So it's man, if I had the money, I would have made the same exact move. It was definitely one of those strike while the iron's hot type of situations.
Because there's been rumors online too for like about maybe a year now, where everyone wants AEW to end up on a streaming platform, a Netflix, an HBO Max, or something like that, and yet everyone kept saying like, well, why do you keep having Dark and Dark Evolution and this and this and this? Well, someone brought it up, and I think Tony might have mentioned it in a media scrum where he was like, well, you have to have so many hours of content to sell. Well, you just gained 20 years of content. You don't have to say what it is.
Yeah.
All you have to say is we can sell you, 1 million hours versus only selling you 10,000 hours.
Yeah, no, of course. Content. I mean, and it was like what we were saying with the Ring of Honor Club. As soon as new content wasn't going to be put on there, it hurt them. So the more content, clearly, the better. All these streaming services are in a race to compile as much content as possible. And really, wrestling's no different in the end.
Mm-hmm. And Impact Wrestling also has their own platform as well. I used to definitely tune in constantly to see old Sue Young matches and see Tessa Blanchard take on Gail Kim. Like there are so many. I was a Impact fan from day one when it was on Wednesdays, and you have to pay $10 a pay-per-view. So you got 2 hours every Wednesday, and if you added it up, it pretty much equaled a WWE pay-per-view. So you were getting 4 weeks of content versus 3 hours of content, which was a pretty good bargain.
Definitely.
So again, Impact has so much of a back library as well. And I know the WWE has tried to over the years purchase, but obviously they weren't going to sell because it's worth so much money. It's
and being in Ring of Honor for years, you would hear different rumors about the library going here or there. And I personally know there was without a doubt meetings with the WWE and Ring of Honor over the library from time to time, but everything kind of worked itself out in the end. And it seemed like they, you hear numbers floated around. I don't know what's true and what's not, but it seemed like they got a pretty good price on the library, and it seemed like it worked out for them as long with AEW worked out for.
So could we see you back in Ring of Honor someday and competing? Because in Lowell, Massachusetts, they're coming very soon in pay-per-view. That's the first, AEW had the first one, but it was like so quick that it wasn't really like, oh, we put all our effort into this. This time around, they're already announcing matches, Samoa Joe and Jay Lethal, Briscoes versus FTR. But could we see you back in a Ring of Honor ring someday?
I mean, if you were to ask me a couple of months ago if I would be in an Impact ring, I would think that what are you talking about? So wrestling is one of those things where I have yes, no, I have no idea. Currently I'm with Ring of Honor. I'm with Impact Wrestling for
So
a
what
little
year is
bit.
this?
Yeah, no, right. What day is this? Is more
Yeah.
like it, dude. Right now, I've been there for 6 months. I know I'll be there for a little bit longer, and who knows what happens after that, and who knows, what could happen tomorrow. Really, in wrestling, it's one of those crazy businesses where, like, honestly, if it was a year ago and I said to myself, you're going to be, the whole company's going to go under, you're going to be fired, you're going to end up at Impact Wrestling before your contract even expires. And now you're going to find yourself in a situation where everything's up in the air. It's like, no, that's not going to happen. I'm under contract for another 2.5 years. So it's crazy.
Yeah.
It being in Lowell, clearly that's something that's near and dear to my heart. One of my favorite Ring of Honor memories of all time is winning the 6-man titles with myself, Vincent, and TK in the Kingdom, and my grandfather was sitting in the front row, and that's just something, in a place for me, the Lowell Auditorium, which I'm a huge wrestling fan. That's where Shawn Michaels lost his smile. So many Raws took place in here.
I was there that day, actually, as a kid, when Shawn Michaels lost his smile. That's the day I also lost my smile.
I was about to say that must have been heartbreaking, because it was heartbreaking for me and I wasn't there.
I was a big Shawn Michaels. Still am Shawn Michaels all-time favorite. But yet there as a child, I'm like, he's world champion. Yay, daddy. And he's like, I lost my smile. I'm going to go home. Here's the belt. I'm like, Dad,
what is going on?
What's happening? And then across the way from me, there's a guy, a grown-ass man holding a sign, Shawn Michaels fears Taz. This is 97 too. So I'm like, Tasmanian Devil? Like, I was too young to know what ECW was at the time. Flash forward 2 years later, as you mentioned earlier, you're staying up till 1 a.m. recording the Spanish channel to watch ECW.
Of course. And that's how quickly wrestling changes, even for fans. It's you can never say, hey, it's one way or the other. But like I said, I have some of my favorite memories in that Lowell. Well, even though they're in the Saugus, in Lowell in general, even going back to Chaotic Wrestling, which is an independent that ran in Lowell forever. Still, I believe they still do every once in a while, but man, a lot of my wrestling growing pains took place in Lowell, and then a lot of my favorite memories took place in Lowell as well. So I wish them the best with what they got going on. But we have Impact Wrestling the week before in Louisville, and that's kind of my next focus for me personally.
Of course. And so when you came in, though, to Impact Wrestling, you've been part of factions and stables before and tag teams, but you came in with a whole crop of people at once. Did you want to come in by yourself, or it was a decision amongst each other, be like, it's best to come in together versus come in one by one?
Well, I think if you look at it this way, if all of us came into Impact and we all had individual debuts and kind of appearances, it would dilute each and every one of us, because you're debuting, well, I just saw a debut last week, and then there's going to be a one, and so you're kind of like, I forgot the one that happened 3 weeks ago, because there's been 6 since then. So when we all came in at once, I think it established all of us right away. And for me personally, I'm in a new place for the first time. I didn't expect it to happen. And I have 3 members with Maria of the Kingdom, who I've been traveling up the roads for years with. Kenny King's a close personal friend of mine. Eddie Edwards and me, we came up together in New England. He's another really close friend of mine. And Carl is crazy. You know what I mean? He's always got to have a wild card around with PCO. So it's one of those things that I really couldn't have picked a better group, as far as like just me personally being around my friends, coming into a new place. And at the same time, I think just because we all, like I said earlier, we all came from the same place and everyone knew it, it made sense to just all come in, and it's worked so well that we've all stuck together for the time being. And who knows what the future leads to, if we end up going our different ways, and then I have an opportunity to do a solo stuff then, or whatever the case may be. But there's a little bit of comfort in a time when like I've said a million times, that those couple of months where so many things were up in the air, to have your friends around you going through it with you. You know what I mean? You're all kind of looking around like, I don't know what's happening, but at least we're gonna do this together. Let's see if we can make work out of this. So, for me, selfishly, it definitely was a fun opportunity to kind of go through a real trying time, but with all of my closest friends around me.
Of course, yeah. I just, when you come in, I was just thinking like, oh well, all these talents come in. Obviously, in my brain, it's an invasion, Honor No More, talking about Ring of Honor. They're coming in. You earned your contracts. Like there was a process to your characters versus coming in and just being like, hey, we're Impact wrestlers. Like,
Yeah.
no, you had a whole story arc where you're destroying kind of like Impact originals, and yet here you are now, 6 months later, still together, still dominating, still pretty good together. So I think it's working out.
Yeah, you know what I mean? I might be biased, but I think it's doing all right so far. We got Impact. We're recording this on a Thursday, so we got Impact probably on starting right now. And Honor No More has been all over Impact Wrestling weekly for the last 6 months. So it's one of those things where if you told me last year that, hey, the first 6 months of 2020 you're going to be all over Impact, I'd be like, what are you talking about? But at the same time, it's part of this crazy adventure called wrestling that for the last 14 plus years I've been living by the seat of my pants, and just kind of, there's ebbs and flows to everything. And luckily there's been more highs than lows. So it's very cool to kind of land on my feet at Impact Wrestling and see what the future holds for me there.
So earlier we were talking about my background and all the WWE memories of WrestleManias and so on and so forth. Is that still a goal of yours to somehow maybe one day be in the WWE? Because obviously some tales they're great. You show up, you get your opportunities. All works out. Some people show up and they're gone a year later or 2 years later.
Yeah.
Is this still a mountain you'd like to climb?
Of course, I think everyone wants to do the unknown. And even when there's so many people that are like, no, you're better off. It's like, no, I have to see it for myself. Yeah. I'm a person that I see a picture of the Rocky Mountains. I'm like, that looks great. But what would be better if I went and saw it myself? You know what I mean? So it's like, that curiosity will always be there. I'm a wrestler that grew up in the Northeast. That will always be in the back of my mind because that's what we grew up on. So it's one of those things. But at the same time, I look at it and there's like, man, there's so much stuff that's happened in my career that would have never happened if I had gone there. The Madison Square Garden thing would have never happened. Selling out Arena Mexico and doing a hair match in Arena Mexico would have never happened. Doing the winning the tag titles with Mikey and Sumo Hall would have never happened. So it's like, there's give and takes to everything. And I'm sure that, everything happens for a reason. So if that was ever to come up and the timing was right, sure. But again, I can say I would like to do this, I would like to do that, but wrestling, it makes its own rules. It really kind of, it pushes you in directions that you never saw coming, and you just kind of have to roll with the punches, as they say. So I always clichely like, you can never say never in wrestling. It's like, okay, roll your eyes at that, but honestly, you really can't. As much as I hate cliches, it is so true in wrestling. You have no idea what tomorrow brings.
That's why card subject to change
without a
is
doubt.
always there at the bottom.
Doubt.
Just so you know, what you think you're going to see, you might not see, because they're warning you at the bottom, that little font. One final question, though. You've done so much already this year. You've survived so much this year. What are your goals for this year? We're about halfway done. So what do you have left in your pockets?
Oh, well, I think, Mike and I, we waited for 5 years to really kind of be back together as a team, because I think in 2015, when I blow my knee out and he goes to TNA, we were just kind of really hitting our stride as a team. And in those like 5 years that we were both doing different things, and we were both doing great stuff, but at the same time, we would be side texting like, hey, when the day we get back together, let's do XYZ. And, you just grow so much as people that you're excited for what if you ever got back together, what that would look like. And then we end up winning the tag titles again on Ring of Honor. And then it's kind of like you're thrown out in the wind again. So just when I thought we had our footing to as a team again, the ground changes underneath you. So now that we're at Impact and now that we're kind of finding our place there, we need a shot at the Impact tag titles. It's been 6 months. We haven't gotten one. We're clearly the best team in Impact, and there's no doubt about that. NWA as well. We've been all over that television since last October. We haven't had a tag team title shot there. You know what I mean? What are these people scared of? We are right. Exactly. I mean, I got all these belts behind me. I need to get more replica belts and more bookshelves to fill up. So I need more shots at these titles because it's the whole reason why we got back together, to show people that we are one of the best tag teams, if not the best tag team in the world. And anytime we're in there with a top team, we prove that time and time again. We have this weekend, we're going out to Pro Wrestling Revolver, wrestling for their tag titles. So I'm hoping that this kind of starts a snowball. We'll win those, and then we'll just win every single one along the way. But there's no doubt that the Impact Tag Team titles is something that is on my extremely short list. Like, people have 5-year goals, 10-year goals, like 5 weeks. I want to be the Impact tag team champion. You know what I mean? I want it sooner than later. And the NWA one as well. Cause to me, I'm a stat nerd. You know what I mean? Like I love who had the most rebounds that season? Let's look them up and argue about it as I look it up on Wikipedia real quick. Yeah. And so I look at the stuff that I've done, and if I could say that I'm the only person, I can't think of anyone else that has done it, but if I can become the only person that's won the New Japan, Ring of Honor, Impact Wrestling, and NWA tag team titles, I think I could be pretty happy with that. So that is the goal, not on the horizon, on the right now.
Ooh, a belt collector. I like it. Hey,
aren't we all? Isn't that what we're all trying to do? If you're not trying to win, what are you trying to do?
That's a good point. That is a very good point. Well, folks, thank you for tuning in to another episode of NBC's 10 and Count. I've been Steve Fall. He's been Matt Taven. He shared everything underneath the sun about how he was feeling. It's been a rough 6 months for him. So the next 6 months, let's give him all those damn tag team titles. Okay, folks? Thanks for tuning in. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you next time. Bye.